Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We rented movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained as pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the feeling bit by bit. Sweetie and Sweetie are here to say it's the Large Marge Santa's podcast. Hey.
Well, Mrs. Doubtfire, he's a she.
What?
He's half man, half woman.
What?
Yes, I swear.
What? No, just calm down.
Grace!
Just relax, please.
He's gonna get it in the balls.
Yeah.
She's got him. She's got everything.
All right, listen to me. I'm not who you think I am.
Yeah, no shit.
Watch your mouth, young man.
Oh my God. Dad?
Yeah,
Dad?
yeah, honey.
You don't really like wearing that stuff, do you, Dad?
Well, some of it's comfortable. No. It's a pain in the padded ass. This is not a way of life. It's just a job. I don't go to old lady bars or anything like that after work, you know? It's the only way I could see you guys every day.
Who did this?
Uncle Frank and Aunt Jack.
Oh.
Hey guys, welcome to the Large Marge Sent Us podcast, your favorite podcast that's just celebrating 1 year on the air.
Woo!
Oh my God!
So exciting. I can't believe
guys,
it.
We fucking made it. It seems like just yesterday we started recording Jurassic Park and didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
Still not 100% sure we know what we're doing, but
Envision it.
it feels right. We had my Mac laptop computer. We were using GarageBand. We didn't have mics. It was very bad quality. But, we still had the material, which is what has really driven us through material and fans.
And fans. So many fans.
So thanks, guys, for sticking with us.
Yeah.
Long story short, it has been a blast doing this for the last year. And we're not done yet.
We ain't going nowhere.
Nope. This is just the very beginning of our newfound career as podcasters.
Woo!
So thanks for supporting us.
Yeah.
You guys rock. So in celebration, we're going to do a couple things, and most of those fell through. So pretty typical of the sweeties.
Oops. We're not good with like plans and following through on anything.
We're still going to do cool stuff, and it's going to happen
eventually.
Yeah, like next week. But in terms of our movie selection, okay, that was like a shit show.
A shit show. It wasn't
Yeah.
a shit show. It's just like too many recommendations, none of which we had seen or heard of for the most part.
So-
and then the ones we did want to do, we couldn't get in time.
Yeah, so here's what it boils down to. We really want to do either Now and Then or Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Those seem to be really popular ones we haven't covered yet.
And
the reason why we haven't covered them is because they are not found streaming or rentable anywhere. So we'd have to buy a physical copy. Hard to come by. So we're going to have to get one on half.com or something like that. But we found out that a local movie theater around here is actually showing Buffy the Vampire Slayer next week.
Woo!
So we're going to watch it like in a theater, which is going to be fucking awesome.
Can't bring our notebooks. Last
So-
time we did that, I couldn't take good
we'll
notes.
just have to remember. So that's wicked cool. So then, second idea, we're like, let's go to Target and like go through the $5 bin and like maybe Now and Then will be in there, and then like all the stars will align. So $5 bin. Okay, first of all, I don't know if this is anyone else's deal. Every time I go to Target, I feel like I'm gonna barf. Is it with the lights or something? Like,
Yeah.
why do I feel like I'm gonna
Yeah, it's
die
definitely
every
the
time
lights.
I go in there? I have a great time. I love going to Target. I can't not drop like $50 every time I go on like shampoo, but I feel sick. So I was trying to get out of there.
I don't know. I don't know if it's an on purpose thing. I feel like they'd want you to stay and shop a lot, not be like, shit, I'm gonna shit my pants and like
Right.
run out.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the deal is,
Yeah,
but I
it's
hope
not
someone
good.
investigates it because I have the same problem. So
Yeah, so we found Mrs. Doubtfire, and that is the movie that we eventually settled on for today.
Hooray.
So good one, good one.
flick, good flick. 1993. Sweetie was 10 years old. I was about 7.
Whoop, whoop.
We saw this in the movie theater. We
Yeah.
have a great story, which we'll tell after the synopsis, which also might involve diarrhea, so look out for that. And yeah, it's just obviously Robin Williams. It's our first Robin Williams movie. I can't believe it.
Yeah, that seems like wild to me. Though I guess like I don't know.
I can believe
I think
it.
we're like potentially skipping Hook because we like think it's a big snoozeville fest. But maybe we'll cover it. And then like I don't know what other Robin Williams ones we would
Aladdin.
do. Yeah, okay, Aladdin. You're right. I mean, I'm not thinking like animation.
Yeah.
But huge movie for Robin Williams, obviously. So good. Basically like made for him. This role. It just like is a vehicle for all of his various talents and mostly his improvisational talents. So upon reading the trivia for this movie, it's like entirely based on his improv work. Like they would run through this like scenes a couple times and then they would just be like, okay, Robin, like you improv the next take. And then the guy, this is Chris Columbus movie, likened like putting together and editing this movie like putting together a documentary because he had like so many different like takes and stuff and like what little parts from each take he wanted to use in the final. So like wowzer.
I believe it.
Yeah. So total gem. This movie quite sad and adult.
What?
In many ways.
Quite sad adult.
Adult themes. Sad, sort of somber themes.
Sad and adult?
Yes.
Okay. I think you just
Sad adults.
Yeah. I think you like combine it into one word.
There are a lot of sad adults in here.
And I didn't know what to do.
That's not a lie. There's a lot of sad adults.
No, yeah. I mean, I would classify this as a family movie with obviously some sensitive themes in it. Divorce, for instance, cross-dressing. Clearly a movie of the 90s because it was not very respectful to what is now the transsexual kind of
Transgender.
what did I say? Transsexual. Transgender.
That's the old term.
I know. Well, I was going to say, transvestite is
Yeah,
like what I think they were trying to get at the end. But, yeah, so it wasn't very sensitive to that situation, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I think at its heart, a family movie. It's rated PG-13, but I think most of us saw it in the theater probably.
Yeah.
There were swears in it. I don't remember those when I was little, but they were there. But yeah, it's
and like inappropriate like context, sexual stuff, like
Sure.
that kind of stuff. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, goes over your head when
Yeah.
you're little, but is still there. So yeah, it's gotta have to be done.
And it's just like the hijinks of Mrs. Doubtfire, right? Is like the real like funny portion of this, and obviously like all Robin Williams.
Yeah,
Shtick.
yeah.
So yeah, so I think we should just like jump into it like we always do.
Yep.
It is time for the sweet synopsis. Yeah,
Sweetie.
1 year later,
Looks like a lady.
we still have it.
because we are ladies.
Ooh, ooh, dude looks like a lady.
Daniel Hillard.
You're singing again.
No.
Daniel.
Wait, so their last name is Hillard,
Yeah.
but it's like Hillard, but like they say it dumb, like Hillard. I don't know. I don't think it's necessary, but whatever.
Judgy.
So Dan, old Danny boy, is a cartoon voiceover artist who one day quits his job because he doesn't agree with the bird smoking a cigarette, which he's doing for a very long time in that cartoon. And I have to agree. I think that the 90s was a time where we were starting to like notice that stuff. Maybe it was early 90s, so it didn't cross that radar, but
Right,
it
yeah.
just seems surprising to me that nobody else was weirded out about the cartoon bird smoking a ciggy for like 20 minutes.
They were just making the movie.
Yeah, so he quits, he walks out. He goes and picks his kids up from school. It's his son's birthday. His son, whose name is
Chris.
He also has two daughters, Lydia, who's 14.
Let's say 14.
We
'cause
guess.
Chris is 12.
Okay.
He turned 12.
And then little Natalie, who is 5. So it just happens to be Chris's birthday, and he picks the kids up and says, "Oh, we're going to have a party, dude." And they're like, "No, Mom said we can't have a party because he didn't get good grades or something."
Yeah.
Something like that. Something dumb. So he's like, "Well, Mom's not going to be home for 4 hours." So in between the time that they're having this conversation and somewhere around those 4 hours, so I would have guessed she's going to be home in 3 hours at this point, he somehow hires a mobile petting zoo, gets all these little kids to come over, and throws like the biggest birthday bash I've ever
like
seen.
a 12-year-old rager, if you didn't know that was a thing. But what was weird is that like he wasn't supposed to be there because he was only there because he got fired, right? Like,
Right.
that's why
Right.
they were surprised when he came to go pick them up. Like, Dad, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And I was under the impression that they were already like divorced or like separated, I guess. And I think that is kind of supposed to be the case, maybe.
Because he moves all his stuff out, so he was clearly
you're right.
living
Okay.
there.
So this really is the very beginning of the split up of their marriage, which I didn't remember. Like,
Yeah,
as a
I always
child.
thought they had been separated. So
Yeah.
so he throws this big party. There's kids everywhere. There's animals all over the place. The mean neighbor calls the cops. Calls Miranda, the wife, played by Sally Field, and she comes home and is in a state of shock and is like, "Oh my God, what's happening?" Which she should be, because there's farm animals all over the place, and they've let a pony inside the house.
Right. And then like Daniel is doing like a rap what is that?
Jump around, House of Pain.
And like with a backwards cap on like this dance with his 12-year-old son on the table. And so here you're kind of like it's being established that Daniel is like a big kid basically, and is more like a friend to these kids and not necessarily like he's obviously the fun parent and has really kind of little to no responsibility and just likes to have a good time. Which is great and all, but is like not necessarily the greatest quality in a parent. And really why this marriage starts to break up, right? So
So Miranda comes home. They have a fight. Ultimately, she decides that she wants a divorce, which he's very broken up about.
well, I'm surprised he was that clueless. Like,
Yeah.
what? Give me another chance.
Right. And we don't know like how many instances this has happened before or what, but I gather a few because she's had it. So the kids are very upset, and Daniel moves out. They are next in court, and the judge decides that because Daniel does not have a job or a place to live, he can't have any custody of the kids. So sole custody goes to Miranda, and he'll get to see them once a day on Saturday, like for a couple hours, which like totally sucks when you're used to seeing your kids every day, and then all of a sudden you just only get one day. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, Miranda decides she needs to hire a housekeeper, but she really means she should have used the term like nanny, I guess, because like a housekeeper doesn't just.
Well,
I would assume that a housekeeper is just doing house things.
but a nanny would not maybe have to do house things.
Oh no,
Right?
I think they do everything.
She was a
but,
combo nanny housekeeper.
Yeah. So Daniel doesn't like this because he doesn't understand why he can't just watch the kids and pick them up from school and take care of things, because Miranda doesn't trust him, and he doesn't do housework, and he doesn't know how to cook, so that won't work out. So he's like, "Oh, let me look at the ad." So he takes the ad and switches two numbers, a number each in the cell phone and the home phone, and gives it back to her. So she puts it in the paper. Meanwhile, he calls her up with all these like fake housekeeper personas and scares her from like ever wanting to hire someone. So he does that with like 4 personas, I assume. And then he goes in for the kill and uses Eugenia Doubtfire. Eugenia Doubtfire. Who is this? He just like cooked this up, I guess, on a whim. I don't know. Did he practice? We don't know.
No, I mean, that guy, he's brilliant. He's
Right.
like a crazy, brilliant voice actor. But I always thought that was so brilliant how he like got the name. As a little kid, I was like, that's so cool. So he's like, he doesn't give her the name of this woman, this housekeeper that he's made up. Until like the very end, and she's like, "I'm sorry, like, what was your name again?" And he's like, like scrambling, what's my name gonna be? What's my name gonna be? And then there's a paper on the bed, and it says, "Police Doubtfire." So there was like some arson case or whatever in San Francisco where they live, and so he like puts the two together, and he's like, "Doubtfire, dear."
Yeah.
This is Doubtfire, and it's like, oh,
It's a classic movie trope when someone looks at something and cooks up a thing, like Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Same thing. The psychic does that. The Alamo in the basement. So it's one of my favorite little things I like to say. Anyway, so now he needs to figure out how to become Mrs. Doubtfire. So as luck would have it, his brother and his husband, are they married or are they just a couple?
Well, there was no
his
gay
partner.
marriage,
Oh,
so-
you're right. His partner work in the makeup business.
Yeah.
And he can turn him into an old woman. So they go through all these different costumes, and finally they come up with the Mrs. Doubtfire look, which is like classic old lady, but like not super old. I don't know how to describe it, but you know Mrs. Doubtfire. Everyone knows what Mrs. Doubtfire looks like. That's her. So he's got the costume, and he goes over and meets the family. Yep. And it's very bizarre because he's obviously knows them all, but he has to pretend like he doesn't. He's meeting them for the first time, so it's all very well done.
But using like what he does know about them, like to his advantage.
Tricky.
But they don't know that,
Yeah.
so it's kind of this like crazy sort of like mind game kind of shit going on.
It's a little dark.
Yeah,
It's
creepy psycho.
But obviously he gets the job because Miranda loves him instantly, and so he starts as Mrs. Doubtfire. So things are a little rocky at first. The kids are kind of very upset about this, and they just want their dad to be there. He still can't really cook. He like burns his tits off, his fake tits. Cooking. Okay, first of all, I just need to say that if you have never really cooked in your life, you shouldn't start with something like a béarnaise or like a hollandaise sauce. Not like too extreme, Daniel. Tone it down.
We wanted to be impressive.
So he forgets that and orders like fancy gourmet takeout that costs like $135.
Which in 1993, like holy shit, that's a lot of
And
money.
it was like the shittiest dinner ever. It was like 4 strands of pasta, 2 shrimp, 3 baby carrots.
Some gross pink sauce and like a salad
weird
with
sauce.
raspberries.
Yeah. What was up
I'm
with
like,
the
the kids do
raspberries?
not want that. I know he's like trying to impress them, but even the kids were like, wow. Like
Keep
they would
it-
eat that? No way that they would eat that. They'd be
Keep
like,
that-
where are my fucking chicken nuggets?
Keep that shit simple. Also, she was harping on about nutritional dinners, and I don't think that didn't look too nutritional to me.
No.
So whatever. Anyway, but he learns, and eventually he does get better at everything.
Yeah.
The kids start really warming up to him, to Mrs. Doubtfire. They really like him. Miranda loves him.
Yeah. And in tandem, Daniel is getting his own life together as Daniel and as the dad, right? So he gets a job.
Yep.
He starts to clean up his apartment a little bit more. He gets regular visits from sort of like a social worker type person, like checking in on him to see if he's like, gotten the apartment and gotten the job and all that stuff. So he's like slowly making his way, to being actually the good dad, the real good dad. And at the same time, getting to be with the kids because he's Mrs. Doubtfire, right?
Right. And I think that his ultimate goal in mind is to kind of win his way back into the family. Right. I think he still thinks that this is just like Miranda just overreacting, and that once she sees that he can change, that she'll change her mind. However, there's a wrench thrown into this plan when Stewart,
A little hard body named Stu.
what's his last name?
Stewart
Something.
Hot.
Played by Pierce Brosnan, Hottie McHotster.
Carol loved him,
Yes,
by the way.
our
Remember how
mom
much Carol-
loved
I wish
Pierce
we could call
Brosnan.
Carol.
Oh, yeah,
She'd
it's-
wax on and on.
It's too late
It's
now,
late,
but yeah, we should have. Damn it. But yeah, she always told us that like he's the only man I would leave your father for. Good, cool mom.
We're trying to remember if this was like. So did you say it was Pierce Brosnan? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This was before or after GoldenEye.
Pretty sure it was before.
Bond stint.
I think GoldenEye wasn't until like 97 or something, right?
Oh wow. Okay.
Like later.
Yeah. And he does look good, but like I have my own problems with Stu. Talk about that later. Show off.
Or now. Yeah. So Stu starts moving in, and I guess he and Miranda had a relationship prior to her and Daniel's relationship or something in college, some bullshit. So Stu moves right on in, and Daniel sees this and is getting very jealous and upset. So he like kind of finds little ways to like really get to him. So he like snaps off his Mercedes hood ornament and like does little jabs at him, like his tan is muddled and stuff like that. But Stu, to be honest, is just like it's too much. It's too much.
I think he is like a nice guy.
Yes.
Like that scene when they're at like the pool and he says his friend is like, "Oh, I thought you didn't want kids." Like what? And he's like, "These kids are great. Like I can change my mind." And like that's when you think like me when he's talking to his friend, you're like, "Oh, the true Stu's gonna come out." But really, he's actually like a good guy.
Yeah, nothing bad ever happens. So.
But he's a little bit of a show off. Like let's roll it back.
He's a little too
bit,
like he's aggressively hot.
Yeah.
And perfect example. Yeah, perfect example is when they go to the pool and Stu's like on the diving board and sees them walk in. He's like, "Oh, hi," like waving, and then he like calms himself and like steadies himself on the board and like takes a deep breath in. and then runs up to the diving board and jumps and does like a perfect like 2 twists down, like perfect 10 dive.
He's like basically a professional diver. Okay. First of all, this is a public pool in fucking San Francisco. You're not doing like a triple corkscrew sow cow like dive. I'm sorry, you're not. It's not even deep
Is
enough.
that what they're called?
No, that's skating. But it's the same thing. It was not deep enough. Like, what the fuck is that about?
Yeah.
Like, and then even like Mrs. Doubtfire's like, wow, like I hope he didn't like hit his head or anything. Like she is wise to that. Like what the fuck is wrong with you?
It's so bizarre.
And then like how long are they been dating before he gives her this fucking beautiful bracelet with diamonds and emeralds for her birthday?
Yeah.
Like cool it, Stu.
So eventually, he takes Miranda and the kids out and Mrs. Doubtfire to this fancy restaurant called Bridges. And as luck would have it, on that same night, at that same restaurant, at that same time, Daniel is meeting with Mr. Lundy, is that his name? Yeah. Who's the boss at the TV studios where Daniel works shipping packages or whatever. But he meets him one day when this like old as fuck guy is doing this dinosaur show with just like, or a science show with like model dinosaurs. That's so fucking boring. And he's like, why is it still in the air? And then this Mr. Lundy kind of takes a liking to Daniel, and he thinks that Daniel probably has some good ideas because he thinks he's very funny. He catches him like on the set after hours doing like a impromptu dinosaur rap, which he finds very funny. So he invites him to this dinner to like talk over ideas that they can do to make a different kind of children's program that will actually be successful. So that's the same night as this birthday dinner. So unfortunately, Daniel can't say no to Miranda's birthday dinner. We don't know why.
Or could he?
To be honest, I think there are many excuses he could have given. For starters, no is a good one. Like you just
I have
be like,
plans.
Yeah,
it's a Friday night.
It was easy. He could have gotten out of it in so many different ways, and we know that it needed to be done to move the plot along, but it still makes me angry. So he decides to just do both old Daniel and then Mrs. Doubtfire at the same time, and does like a frantic back and forth changing scene, which is very stressful for me, even though I know it's supposed to be entertaining, but for me it just stresses me out.
I love that scene. So
I mean, I do, but it's just still like, I don't know. It's just really, it freaks me out. It's like when I go to the bathroom and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be in here too long. People are going to like start like freaking out. Like he must have been in like, they must have thought he was in there for like, like 20 minutes.
But like he was like, it was an old lady. So you're like going to give it like, you know, be like, okay, well, she's old. Like who knows?
Or
like,
do
what's
you? Or
happening
do you
there?
go in and check on her because she's taking her medicine? Who knows what fucking happened? I'm surprised she didn't go in there and be like, wow, she's not in here, but her weird carpet bag is stashed under the toilet. Yeah. That's suspicious.
So it becomes worse because the guy that he's meeting with from the studio is ordering like double like Chivas on the rocks, and Daniel is getting drunk as a skunk. So that's really like complicating things because now he like can't remember like what bathroom to go into, like what table he has to go to next. It's like it's a shit show. But he's not too drunk enough to remember that poor Stu is allergic to pepper. And Stu had ordered the jambalaya, which if you're allergic to pepper, do not order jambalaya, Stu. You order like a plain salmon steamed. Like, what are you, dumb? Anyway. So Daniel's like, you ordered the jambalaya, like no pepper. I'm going to like go put on the chef's coat, stumble into the kitchen drunk, and put cayenne pepper all over his shrimp dish. I don't know what his end game was there. I don't know. He didn't want to kill him, but like, I don't know, make him embarrassed or something.
Well, what do you think is going to happen if someone's like, I'm allergic to this food? Yeah. You don't give it to them. Right. But he was drunk. He's still very jealous. So.
Yeah. So Stu starts eating the meal. And he doesn't even, actually, I don't even think he's allergic. Sounds like bullshit to me because he basically just like inhales the cayenne pepper. It's too spicy. And then he chokes on a shrimp.
And meanwhile, Daniel has slipped up and has accidentally gone back to Mr. Lundy's table dressed as Mrs. Doubtfire. So he has to kind of shake it off and pretends that this is his new character for the TV show. Surprise! And then so they're talking through that.
He did cover up all of his little.
It was pretty well done, despite being very drunk. Yeah. So yeah, Stu is choking. And then in the beginning, when Mrs. Doubtfire gives Miranda her resume, it says that she's trained in the Heimlich maneuver. So Stu starts joking, and then Miranda looks up and sees Mrs. Doubtfire and is like, Mrs. Doubtfire, he's choking, help us. So she runs and like jumps and then gets him and gives him the Heimlich maneuver, gets the shrimp out. But unfortunately, this causes his mask to completely like ride up his face. So everyone's like, what the fuck is happening? We forgot to mention that Chris and Lydia eventually find out that
older kids know.
that it is their dad, so they know. But Miranda and Natalie do not. So there's a big moment of shock. Miranda's very upset. And she like storms out. Cut to another court scene where the judge has decided that he's unfit really to be a father at all unless he has supervision, and he probably needs treatment to take care of like whatever he's got going on, just terrible. And he decides that he cannot see his children without supervision.
Right. And Miranda doesn't speak up. She's not like, okay, he doesn't have problems.
She's
he was
still
really just
very
trying
upset about it, but
and like I would be too. You have to give her like some credit because that is like extremely that's a horrible thing that he did. I mean, she was like pouring her heart out to him. I mean, there's so many weird, very uncomfortable scenes where like you obviously know it's Daniel like listening in on like her critique of basically him as like a husband. And like no one should be able to hear those things, you know? And it was just like such an invasion of privacy and just like, yeah, I really do feel for Miranda. I'm sure this is just like me getting older and watching this and being like, fuck that, men suck.
But I feel for her, but it was like a very harsh ruling for someone. And I'm not saying that like if he was transgender that like it would be like fair or whatever. It's not fair for anybody, but especially in this case because he's not. He was literally just doing it to see his kids.
Right. And the whole thing of this movie is that like the marriage is bad. That was never a thing. Like I know Daniel thought maybe they were going to get back together, but like as watchers of this movie, like that was not a good marriage and they're not getting back together. Okay. But it was never up for argument that he wasn't a good dad. Like he was a great dad. The kids loved him. That was never, he loved those kids. It was never like he wasn't going to be there for those kids. So the fact that was like kind of the one thing he had left and she was taking that away is like pretty evil and very sadistic and sad.
So that's over, and then they need to find a new housekeeper. So they interview more people, but they're all terrible. Apparently, you can't find a decent housekeeper in San Francisco to save your life, but whatever. So they do that, and then while they're like they see the last person out, they hear Mrs. Doubtfire's voice on the TV and realize it's the TV that's playing the new kids show, which stars Mrs. Doubtfire or Daniel as Mrs. Doubtfire, and it's a really sweet show. There's a sweet puppet monkey named Kovacs. I like it. I mean, I wanted to watch more episodes of that, but you know, whatever. So they think that's real sweet, and then Miranda goes to the studio and then talks to him after a taping, and we don't know what they talk about, or we do. Wait, no, we do hear them talk about it.
I mean, it's mostly them fighting.
But doesn't she say like
no?
Okay,
so you don't know because it is
so we don't know. So then next day the doorbell rings and they're like, oh no, that's the new housekeeper, which the kids haven't met, even though they were there for all the other interviews. So I'm if I was Lydia, I'd be like, why didn't we get to meet this one that you decided to hire without us? Like, what the fuck? So they open the door and it's Daniel, and then Miranda's decided that the kids are going to spend a couple hours with him every day after school, so he gets to see them all the time now. It's real sweet. Yeah. And then the last scene is Miranda watching the Mrs. Doubtfire show, and she's like responding to this little girl's letter about what happens when like your parents divorce. It's real sweet. Really ties it up nicely in a nice little bow. Just saying, like, you know, sometimes marriages don't work out and your parents might get divorced, but they still love you and you still love them, so everything is okay.
Yeah, I think it's a really beautiful theme of the movie, like especially as, you know, if kids are watching that and your parents are getting divorced or having trouble or something like that. Because I don't know if like, well, I mean, I guess like divorce is like was talked about in maybe movies before. I'm just trying to like think of any off the top of my head.
I mean, a bunch of movies. It was always just like a theme in 80s movies.
Oh yeah, I mean, do we forget our whole theme of bad dad, which is like all around divorce, like vice versa, and
typically,
like all that
yeah,
stuff.
that's the one I immediately thought of too.
Yeah, so but this one is dealt with like very sweetly, and it's really just about like a guy who really just like loved his kids so much, and like what would he do to be close to them even though he couldn't, right? Yeah. And everyone wins in the end. He gets to be with his kids. The divorce sets, and I think he's on a better page with Miranda, so they're not like, they don't hate each other or anything like that. And everyone's life sort of goes on. Right. It's different, but it goes on.
It's different. Yeah. But I guess, yeah. So my main question always was just like, is he that bad of a dad? Which you already said he's not that bad of a dad, but like I don't know. But sometimes when I'm watching this, I feel like it was too. Like, I know that the party wasn't, like, the big blowout party with the animals wasn't the main cause of the divorce, but it did seem very sudden if they weren't separated before like we thought they were, like just
Yeah.
to have like that conversation at that moment
Yeah.
versus like talking it out and
Right. Well, you don't know what the time frame is between like when they have that fight to when they go to court and stuff like that. So
That's
I don't
true.
know.
That's
Like,
true.
You don't know like what
Yeah.
that deal is. But it seemed to me that like having that Mrs. Doubtfire character made him grow up like a lot. So like he really learns like to cook and to clean and like all the stuff that she really wanted him to do, especially because he was unemployed. He ended up taking those responsibilities on under the guise of another person. So like that was kind of interesting. But that turned the whole house around because once he sort of came a little bit more of like an adult, let's say, not even like a parent, because he was a good parent, but like an adult with kind of a little bit more responsibility, everyone kind of felt better. So the kids were doing better in school. Like he was doing better. Miranda felt better. You know, it was like that.
Everything
kind of
was
thing.
all good. Although curious that I guess they didn't have like merged assets when they were married. I was just thinking about this. Like, why can't he use like so it was just like all that money is Miranda's? Like he did have a job.
Well, like I
so-
was saying to you, whoever is the breadwinner, so which was like in this case Miranda, like she would have given him alimony and would have to like set him up.
But even still, like when you're married, like you usually have a joint account of some kind. Like I'm confused why.
That's why that's why he was able to get that apartment.
Oh, well, I thought he didn't have a place to live when the judge was ruling this ruling.
But it was like I don't think it was like that far. How are you supposed to
Then
just like get a new place?
Then how
to
can
live?
you judge someone for not having a place to live when you were just kicked out
and
like
the other
a
part
day
that
ago?
I think is weird is that like why they have the social worker involved at all when you're just divorced. Is that like what happens? And like it's not like someone was checking in on. Well, I guess the woman did check in on Miranda too and was just like checking to see how the kids were doing and stuff.
I guess.
I didn't think
still
like
think it's
social workers
weird.
were that involved
Yeah.
for just like a
Me
divorce
neither, especially for
situation.
like a nice like really wealthy family.
But you know what? I
in
bet
San
it was because it was a
Francisco.
custody dispute. It wasn't like a
Maybe
an amicable
I
kind
mean,
of
we
a thing.
are lawyers on the side, so we
and
should
I don't
know.
think he wanted to get divorced, so it was probably one-sided divorce too.
yeah, I guess.
Sorry.
I don't know.
Let's not talk about legal
It's still
stuff. We don't know
confusing
what we're
to me,
talking
and
about.
I don't agree with it, but whatever. I do think it's also funny that Miranda's like smitten kitten for Pierce Brosnan's character, to the point where like I started to get suspicious on this viewing because so in the very beginning, like while Daniel's throwing the big birthday bash, Miranda at work, her boss tells her that this guy Stewart, whatever, I don't know, I can't think of his last name, but wants to talk to her and like get a design, and she gets this like
'Cause
dreamy
it
look
was,
in her
like,
eye.
old crush.
But doesn't part of you think that like that like put into motion like the actual like yes, she was mad at Daniel, but in the back of her head she was like, I really love Stewart still
well, good
and
for
want to
her.
do
If
that.
that's what it takes.
Yeah, but it's just like it was quick. It
that
was quick.
relationship was over, and I don't even know. I mean, she does explain why they got together to begin with, and it does make like a little bit of sense because she was like very prim and proper and scheduled, and she really fell in love with Daniel's spontaneity and how
Yeah.
funny he was, and that happens all the time.
But she
so
does
it's not like
start dating Stewart quite fast. And although Mrs. Doubtfire is saying things to her like, you don't want to be like a floozy, like as a joke,
like they're sleeping
I like
together.
slightly agree with it. No, but I do think that like the kids are still upset about Daniel. But which is another good point because they're not upset at all at the fact that Stewart is moving in on them and becoming like their new dad.
which I feel like they would be. And
They
like,
should have. I feel like they should have been mad. Lydia was so mad that her mom hired a housekeeper instead of letting their dad babysit them, and she didn't get mad that Stewart was in the picture. It just doesn't click for me.
I mean, and it's interesting because like our parents didn't divorce. Like our dad died like 10 years ago at this point. But even when our mom started dating people, like that was kind of weird for us. And now having those feelings that we've had when that happened, and now watching this, like I totally like get Robin Williams' perspective where it's like, hell no, like get out of here.
Right.
Yeah. See,
It's-
that's why I don't like
it's
Stu.
it's a little icky. Yeah, it's a little icky.
Right, because it's like, I mean, our case was obviously a little different because like our dad was gone. It wasn't like a replacement dad, but it always sort of is because like that's just a new person who's going to be around them about the same time that you are. So at least, you know, and there's always going to be that competition. Well, like who's the better dad? Like who is their shit together?
It's a little weird. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what should we tell the movie story now? or wait until
Yeah, well, let's
Okay.
do that at the end. Okay, so as we said before, this is Chris Columbus directed, not written, I don't think, just directed. So as you know, we've talked about many times before, Chris Columbus, director of Adventures in Babysitting, Home Alone, wrote Gremlins, wrote
Many things.
Yeah,
Did the first 2 Harry Potters.
Yep, the first Harry Potters. Love him.
Yeah.
I just think he's like amazing, and he did so many of the movies that we've covered. So, again, C², love you to pieces. This really is the beginning of the Maura Wilson era. I think you should talk about that as you're more versed in her oeuvre than I am.
Really?
Good word.
Well, so when I was little, and I saw this when I was, so this was this her first movie, or did she
Yes,
have another
it was
one?
her first movie.
Okay, so when I saw this, I was about 7 years old. She's 5, and she seemed very little to me when I was watching it. Like, I felt like I was so much older than she
You were the
was.
same age.
I think realistically, but in this movie, she was 5. Like, her character was 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So maybe she was a little older, but
Because I feel like, remember when she went to NYU and you like...
shh, I'll talk about it. So yeah, she's exactly my age. But so people would always tell me when I was little that I looked like this little girl, and it would make me so mad because I hated her. She just like was an annoying little actress to me.
I
And
think
she
she's
has
annoying
like
as
this
fuck.
annoying lisp. Which what's your little
What was the line I did? It was really good.
something?
Mrs. Doubtfire, can we move me through our little place? Mrs. Doubtfire. Mrs. Doubtfire, can you take me to the bathroom?
Yeah, I hated it. So it just made me so upset that people thought that. So whatever, I got over it, and I was like, whatever, fine. So then, Mara Wilson kind of quit acting after
Like Matilda was a big one.
Matilda. That was 96.
Yeah.
A Simple Wish was 97. That was another big one. I think like shortly thereafter she quit acting.
Yeah, she really like after Matilda was basically.
Yeah.
She really only did like 2 movies, and we're like, what
So
the fuck?
so she went to NYU, and my friends and I had this thing where we would like when Facebook became a thing, we would just like Facebook random ass people and like try to friend them on Facebook. So we Facebooked all the kids in Zoom that were on the show Zoom, and we friended like a good half of them. And I think I'm still friends with Pablo, whatever. And then we found Mara Wilson, and she was like an uber nerd, like played, what is that when you're like
Dungeons and Dragons.
no, you're like, I forget what it's called, LARPing. Yeah, LARP. LARPing. It's live action role playing or something.
Okay, yeah.
She was like big into that, and like we thought it was hilarious. So, but she unfriended me eventually when she was like, "Oh, I don't know half of these weird people that keep friending me." But it was a good story for me to have in the back of my pocket to use right at this moment. So anyways, now she's kind of come back into the spotlight because she released a book. She's quite a big presence on Twitter. She's guest starred in a few shows. And she came out recently as bisexual. So it's been
Nice.
kind of like a big, she's having a moment.
Yeah, Maura. I like her better now.
Yeah, she's pretty cool now. But yeah, that was her. But I didn't like her as a child
Yeah.
actress. I just thought she was just like nothing special. Just one of those. She was cute, so that made her a good actress, which is often what happens with child actors.
Right.
And then when they get older, people realize, oh, they weren't actually a good actress. I mean, maybe she is a good actress, but
did she go to NYU for the film or the arts? Like, was she in Tisch, like the art school?
I
thought she
don't
was.
remember. Maybe.
Oh, isn't she our cousin Kate's age? Like, that's why we knew about
No,
it too.
she's my age.
Oh, I thought she was Kate's
No,
age.
no,
and
she's
that's
my
why.
age.
Well, Kate would have been in school with her though, right? Because she's only a couple years
Maybe I
younger.
didn't ask
Yeah.
her, but
Yeah. Anyway, so like, yeah, like this is like Maura Wilson era of stuff. A Lawrence brother is the other, another, I don't know who the older girl is. I don't like remember her, but the Matthew Lawrence of the Lawrence brothers fame is little Chris. And he's actually pretty sweet.
she's sweet.
Yeah. I like his role in this. Harvey Fierstein is the gay brother is hilarious. Oh my God. Love him. It's fucking
Oh yeah,
hilarious.
the Lydia was in Independence Day too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, she kind of dropped out of acting also.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just like child actor stuff. I don't know. I think like after a while, you're like, you know,
She was also
I want to have a fucking
She's
life.
also in The Beautician and the Beast.
Oh my God, I love that movie.
I know, it's a
that
good
is
one.
such a movie that like no one has seen, but it's so
no, yes,
good.
they have seen that.
Okay, I love that movie.
So they have. Yeah, and then Pierce Brosnan, like we said. So
Pierce.
yeah, a lot of good.
Sally
Field.
Sally Field, amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that woman, you put her in anything, and she's so well rounded because she can do comedy, drama, like whatever. She's a fucking flying nun, for God's sake.
Totes.
She's the best.
Yeah. So let's see. Do you have specific favorite parts? I have two that come to mind.
So I liked the. Okay, so in general, I've said that like this is like a perfect vehicle for Robin Williams, and they really like show that because they do like several montages of things that like are just like him like goofing off, right? So like the first one, he does like all these impressions when he's like getting interviewed by the social worker lady. Because he's like, I'm a voice actor. And then he does like, it goes on and on. I feel like they could have cut that a little bit. Like, it's like 25 impressions, like super random. Not of famous people. He's just making up characters.
Some of them
right?
are famous. No, most of them are famous
Oh,
people,
they
I think.
were?
Yeah.
Okay, then I still don't get the references because I'm like, these are funny, but like I didn't know like what the references were. And then so one of my favorite scenes is when he goes to his brother and he's like, make me a woman. And then the brother's gay, so he's like, oh, honey, like I thought you'd never ask. Like he's so excited, right? So they start like trying to decide how they're going to make him into a woman. So they start first with like just like old
nothing,
lady,
just a wig and like fake nails.
Yeah. Oh yeah, wig and fake nails, and it was like very extreme, and it looked like kind of creepy.
Just looked like him with a wig on.
Yeah. So then they're like, I think we're gonna have to do like prosthesis. So they do like a prosthetic nose, and then it's like a babushka lady, and then they start singing like matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match, find me a fine, catch me a catch. So funny from Fiddler on the Roof.
And then they turn him into Barbara Streisand.
Streisand.
So they like play the funny girl, right?
Yeah.
Music, and then it's like dun 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 dun, and then he like looks right, turns at the camera and looks exactly like Barbara Streisand, and he starts singing the song. It's like, don't tell me not to,
Don't tell me what to do. Don't
sit
rain on
and-
my parade.
Just sit and putter. Life's candy and a ball of butter.
Yeah, it's so good. And then so then it goes like on, and then like, oh, I think we're gonna have to do the whole face, and then it finally like go, and you don't see him as Mrs. Doubtfire until like he actually goes to the house. So it's kind of like a cool little trick they do because you just like see him from behind. So I love that scene because it's just sort of like another like awesome like vehicle. You see like all his various impression talents and just like how funny he can be. So I love that. And then yeah, so that's like my first favorite scene. You do one of yours now.
That was my main favorite scene. And then my other one I liked is the one where he's being all the fake babysitters. I just think that part's really funny. I just love like and in this case he's all the same person, but like montages of like people interviewing like terrible candidates. It reminds me of the scene in Baby Boom where she's interviewing all the nanny candidates. Yeah. So it's just like that, but I don't know. The personas are just very funny. So I loved that. I love the cooking scene when he catches his boobs on fire. It's very funny. Just like a lot of good gags in this. I'll tell you what my not favorite part is, and you'll probably disagree with me, but again, I just have this weird thing with being stressed out in like high pressure situations. But it's when the social worker comes to his house to check on him, and he's dressed as Mrs. Doubtfire, so he has to pretend that Mrs. Doubtfire is his sister visiting him. And then he like stupidly says that his sister makes like a good cup of English tea. And the social worker's like, I love a cup of tea. And instead of being like, I'll have her make it for you, and like pretending that that's like off camera, he's like, I'll get her. So then he has to change back into Mrs. Doubtfire's outfit, which takes like 5 years to put on because you just like put all the the fat suit on.
I really like both the two stressed out scenes. I think actually they're like the best ones of the whole movie.
No, I know they are, and they're supposed to.
But what is crazy about the apartment stressed out scene is that the apartment is not that big. So he keeps being like, I'll go get him. It's like literally a 1-bedroom apartment. So you like don't have to get somebody.
Right. Like, the lady should have been clued in. Yes. And like it's so stressful. And then he knocks the fucking mask out of the window, and like these two like fat Asian kids are laughing at him across the way, and you're like, what are these kids doing? Yeah. And then he needs a face. He needs he needs a face because he's lost his mask. So, as luck would have it, there's a fully iced cake in the fridge, just chilling, literally chilling.
Like, why the fuck did he have a full cake in there?
Right? He lives by himself. There was like one piece taken out. I know that, yes, sometimes when I get depressed, I'll eat some cake, but not a whole fucking cake.
That was like a very luxe bakery,
It was
like
a nice cake.
really nice cake. That
It
was
was a nice
not that was
cake.
not one you get at like Shaw's for $5.99 on a
total
whim.
plot hole. But then, so he like puts the frosting on, and then the little like giant globs of frosting like fall in the tea, and he's like, "Oh, there's cream
Okay,
for you, dear."
That's my favorite part. I fucking love that shit.
It is very funny.
And
It's
if the woman
hilarious.
drank that tea, like I love that she like takes it because she's like, oh, this is my nightly regimen. This is this mask I wear every night. It's like lemon meringue or something like that. And then so she, Mrs. Doubtfire leaves, and the lady, the social worker, like puts a little bit on her face, like around her eye area. And it's fucking cake icing, like so funny.
Yeah, it is good.
That is a brilliant
I'm just
scene.
shocked that like she bought that, like, or that like anybody. There's some parts in this where I feel like he's being a little obvious. There's a part where Miranda's like, "You remind me of somebody," and then Miss Doubtfire's like, "Really?" And then like does like the shifty eyes, like so questionable. Like you just be like, "Oh."
I know, but it's so wild. Like that would just like not happen. First of all, like that is like the last thing you would ever think someone would do, right? So it would like not dawn on anyone and be like, "Oh, like you look like my ex-husband." Like no,
Right, because he really doesn't. Maybe the
doesn't. He
eyes,
doesn't,
if you
yeah.
looked close enough,
No, the
but like
makeup
not
was
really.
great.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's quite impressive.
Yeah, and like the skills that he has of being able to change out of that, which gets really shown at the other very stressful scene at the restaurant. So for me, like I love that scene because it's just so, like you said, like so tension filled. And you're like, for that one, I mean, obviously the stakes are like super high. You're like, what's gonna happen? Like, is he gonna get found out? And like, obviously everything starts to degrade once he gets getting drunk. So you kind of figure out like, okay, this is gonna be when it all like, you know, the can of worms opens. But it's like, but he covers it up so well every time. So you're like, okay, like I don't know, like maybe it isn't gonna happen. And then it happens. Oh my god, the cat like, scared the shit out of me.
Jesus, it's just Desmond. What first anniversary wouldn't be complete without a visit from Desmond. So question for you is, how do you feel once Chris and Lydia find out that Mrs. Doubtfire is in fact their father?
How do I feel about it?
you,
How
like,
should they feel?
Do you find it's not as like funny anymore once they like? Do you sense like a shift?
I like forgot that they knew or something, right? Because I don't remember her interaction with them like once they knew.
Yeah, they don't really. Yeah, and they don't let on it at all. I think like once they know,
Isn't
it's
there like
pretty
one
soon.
other scene
Yeah,
or something?
after, and
Oh,
then
at the
go to
pool,
restaurant.
maybe like the pool. Well, I love. Oh, and the other parts that I love too. I forgot to mention this was that. So he obviously is like gunning for Stu. He hates him and is like trying to really like ruffle his feathers all the time. And his like dialogue with Stu, just trying to like, as an old woman, just kind of ribbing him and saying these like really inappropriate things. So the best part is when he's at dinner and he's like, kids, like Miranda has taken Natalie to the bathroom. And then he's like, kids, go like see what you want on the dessert tray. And they're like, they know like it's their dad now. So they're like, okay, sure. So he's Mrs. Doubtfire sitting next to Stu and is like telling him all these horrible things about Miranda. Like she has crabs, not the Dungeness kind. And like, oh, you got her that bracelet. Like that must mean you want to like get in her pants, and like basically uses every like euphemism for sex like in the world.
I'm sure they
Like-
had sex at this point.
Yeah.
Come on.
But it's just so funny. So he's just trying to get like his last ditch effort for like Stu, like get out of here, like, you know, do not be interested in Miranda. And that part is so funny. And then she's like, oh, I think it's the wine, like I gotta go. Then like leaves.
That part,
It's
yeah,
pretty
that part
good.
is
And
pretty
like and
funny.
all the parts that like when he kind of forgets he's Mrs. Doubtfire,
Yeah, there's two.
he's like a man.
There's two really creepy parts in this that I would like to bring up. And one of them is at the pool when Mrs. Doubtfire is in her Mrs. Doubtfire garb, and this woman in a bikini walks up, and Mrs. Doubtfire, really being Daniel, like gives her this like eye and like winks at her, and then tries to buy her drink. She's in his Daniel voice. It's not in his Mrs. Doubtfire voice. It's like, it's on me. And the lady's like, no thanks, and then like walks away. Like so creepy. Just like
He wasn't that drunk.
get it
He had, like,
together.
one
he
beer?
had one beer at that point.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude.
Well, he was feeling really down about himself. I think that was like a very low self-esteem.
But like, what did he
moment for
think
him.
was gonna happen?
I don't know.
It's
They
so
just-
weird.
They're using it for
So it really
karmic-
creeps me out. And then the second one
hijinks.
is at the restaurant at the end. Mr. Lundy. Daniel comes back to the table, and Mr. Lundy notices that he's got lipstick on and smells like perfume because he just doused himself in perfume to cover up the alcohol smell, and then forgot to take his lipstick off. So he plays it off by saying that he was just making out with a waitress that he used to date. And then Mr. Lundy's like, "You sly dog," and he's like, "Does your girlfriend have a girlfriend?" He's like, "Does your girlfriend? Does she have a lady friend for me?" And like, I don't know, just something about that interaction just like really grosses me out. I don't do well when old men are like gross and
Like,
suggesting
Sorry, old man.
things with
no
like
one is
young
interested in
women.
you.
It just like really skews me out. So that always sticks in my head as like the
that's
creepiest
gross.
scene
That's
ever.
gross.
I just hate it. I hate it. But yeah.
They did a good job with like any songs that they had that reference like men like women they used in this movie. So
All of
I think the most famous one, which everyone remembers, which I quoted today in my Instagram post, Dude looks like a lady. Aerosmith is like a real big montage, and it's a good one. He's like dancing really greatly with that vacuum.
Or broom. It's a broom.
No, it's first the vacuum,
Oh,
and then he
then-
does the broom, and he's doing like a guitar solo, air guitar with the broom. So that's really great. And then the other one is like, walk like a man, talk like a man. It's like Frankie, who's that high pitched singer? Frankie Valli, maybe?
Frankie Valli again.
I think it's Frankie Valli in Four Seasons.
Let's see. Frank Walk Like a Man. Bob Crew, performed by the Four Seasons.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah, so they did a fun little job with that.
Luck Be a Lady was another one.
Oh,
yeah.
yep.
Papa's
Yeah,
got a
so-
brand new bag.
Yep. Yeah. So that was all like very thematic, but it's like we were saying, like I don't think this movie could be made now because there's just so many like inappropriate trans jokes or cross-dressing kind of jokes, and that's
Just-
just
yeah.
it's we're just a different world now where that's like very acceptable to kind of not feel like you are a certain sex and want to be a different one, kind of transgender stuff. So it's like that, I don't know, like we've talked about many times how both with like homophobic kind of stuff and like anything where like men wanted to be women was like something that people made fun of. And we're just in a different world.
Or we're frightened of. So the part where Chris sees Mrs. Doubtfire peeing in the toilet like with his dick, he freaks out and then runs and tells his sister, and their response is to that they need to call 911 and call the police and to like threaten him with a tennis racket. And you're like, whoa. But they're not educated, and so they don't understand
but
all these
also,
things.
But she was like an old woman. I don't know. I don't think like, I don't know. I think they were just like freaked out about like, okay, this is an old lady. Like, why does she have a penis? Because why would those kids know anything about that life? I know they lived in San Francisco,
Right.
which is like,
But that's what I'm saying. Like we weren't educated on this kind of thing. Like what was our point of reference for a transgendered person?
And this is not the first movie where you've had a man dressing up as a woman to get what he wanted. Tootsie, like that was a huge one. So this is like not an uncommon theme. And you could go the other way too. Victoria. I mean, that's the women's side of it. So it's not like an unheard of thing that you had people switching it up to get the means that like they want.
Yeah.
But the way they dealt with it being like, oh, like you're something's wrong with you.
Yeah, you need treatment. It's just like it's
was
so
like
offensive.
A little strange in this, I guess. So
Ugh.
interesting.
Totally. Would just like to give a shout out. So the end dinner scene is pretty great once Sally Field realizes that it's Daniel, her husband, has been Mrs. Doubtfire this whole time. So that scene was parodied. Wait, did we try to say that word recently? And I couldn't do it. Parodied.
Oh my god.
Recently
You're the worst.
in an episode of Broad City, the finale of last season, I think they have a similar scene where Abby has to like go back and forth between like her date, who is this guy that she's worked with at the gym, who like her and Alana hate, and then Alana's family, and Abby goes back and forth and is getting like progressively more drunk each time. And there's an amazing scene at the end where Alana does like the Sally Field line like the whole time, like that scene. It's just
It's so good.
It's so
Maybe
good.
we can put a clip of it because it's like amazing.
Yeah, hopefully we'll find.
Yeah.
Hopefully
we'll
find
do
that
a link to that.
But oh my god, it's so amazing. So please seek that out and watch it. It's incredible.
And like that. So if you've not seen Broad City, like they're just about our age, those girls. So it's like same thing. Who doesn't know the fucking Mrs. Doubtfire end scene, right? And it was just like so hits home if you're like a kid who grew up in like the early '90s and you were like, whoa, like just like really cool. Yeah, that's where we're at right now. Parodying the 90s movies. Interesting thing about the restaurant though too. So this was, I think, right on the cusp of the smoking, non-smoking section. Whoa,
So weird. Obviously we were alive for that time in the world, where they were slowly making a separation. It started as a separation. First, it was all smoking all the time, always. And then it was like a slow separation in like the late 80s,
like
90s.
If you were in non-smoking, you can still smell.
Right.
Smoke.
It was so pointless. And I don't remember specifically being at a restaurant
You remember
where
Cracker
there
Barrel?
was well, that's different because that was like in the South.
Okay.
But like I feel like the South was like 10 years
Yeah, I don't
behind
remember it
everybody
up here
else.
at all.
Yeah, I don't remember it up here in Massachusetts, but when we would drive down to Florida, we would always go to the Cracker Barrel for dinner, and obviously there was a smoking, non-smoking section. But they divided the section by like a lattice, like fence kind of
Like
thing.
those, I forget what those are called, but it's like almost like a, it's like a
Crisscross. Yeah, it was just
room
there were
separator
there were
kind of thing.
holes in that separator, so any smoke was getting in there anyways, and it was just really gross. Like it's just really gross to eat with like smoke. I just remember it was disgusting, and I just can't believe that was a thing. It just
But
like
what was weird with this one is that they had
Oh, yeah.
reservations. But then when they had reservations, they asked them for non-smoking or non. So aren't there only a certain number of tables in like the smoking
Right.
and the non?
Again, it was a plot thing because they needed a way to
Yes.
get their tables separate from each other.
And
so
which
that,
I didn't realize. This is the first time I realized that. So remember, he goes and. Because he goes, oh no, like we want non-smoking, and like Mrs. Doubtfire makes up a whole thing about how she used to smoke, but now the only thing that keeps her not smoking is if she can be around smokers. And they have 3 kids, and they're like, okay, sure, like we'll sit in smoking for you, Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah.
Like super weird.
Although you
but
don't see anyone smoking, but
he
yeah.
hears the guy being like, put them at table 39, and that's how he knows what table number it is. Because then when he walks by the kitchen and they're like, 39, is my meal ready? That's how he knows to like go into the kitchen and put the pepper on the food. So I didn't. That was the first time I had known.
I was like, what?
that.
You didn't get that? Oh, silly.
Putting it all together like a giant puzzle. That's what I'm doing.
Okay, so I think it's time for this great story. So we saw this movie in the movie theater when it came out. And again, this would have been a great time to call Carol, even though I'm sure she doesn't remember the specific details. But
She might have. Maybe we can get her testimony tomorrow.
yeah, we'll update you. Update on Carol's side of the story. So we assume that we got the time for the movie wrong or something. We look so back in the old days.
It was the newspaper.
Yeah, you got the newspaper, you looked up the theater times, and then you went to whatever. So my only thinking is that maybe it was no, because movies change on Thursdays, so that wouldn't have been it. But I don't know, whatever. Somehow
just
we got
read
it
the time
wrong.
wrong.
We read the time wrong, whatever. So we go to the movie theater. We're like 3 for Mrs. Doubtfire. We go into the theater, and the movie's like halfway over, and so we sit down thinking we just missed like the first like 10 minutes or something.
Oh, we missed the previews. Like
Right.
rats.
So we sit down. Little did we know the movie had been going on for an hour. So we had missed the first complete hour of the movie. So we came in right at that part where he throws the remote control in the fish tank, which is an hour into the movie.
I know what was going on.
We
I'm
knew
so
nothing,
confused.
even though I think at this point, like trailers, I feel like we probably, I mean, we had an idea of what was happening. I don't think, I mean, we knew that was their dad, that
mean,
was
it's not
Robin
like the
Williams.
deepest, most complex
right.
plot
So I'm
ever.
like, I'm sure it was fine, but like, it's just funny that we stayed like not knowing. So then the movie's over and we're like, wow, it's over already. Like we
only
missed
here
it.
for a half hour.
So our mom talks to like the usher and is like, we came at the wrong time and we missed half the movie. Like, can we stay for the next one and then leave like when we get to the part that we missed? So he lets us do that. So, and it must have been not like long time between movies. It must have been right after that one. So we stayed from the beginning and then left at the part where he throws the remote in the fish tank. And it's just such a weird way to watch a movie.
And I swear to God, like I think I actually like miss another part because I think I had diarrhea and I had to leave. Very sad. I'm very truthful about my bowels.
It just wasn't meant to be.
No, it wasn't. So it's like, when did I see the full run of this movie? Maybe this was the first time.
No. I mean,
What if we had like the Curse of Mrs. Doubtfire and we just like never saw it all the way through?
Right, that'd be sad. This is another one that's always on TV. Like if you just Google Mrs. Doubtfire, it'll probably tell you. I bet I can tell you like 5 channels that are
Good.
playing
Glad
this
we
right
bought
now.
it in the $5 bin then.
Yo. Well, we don't have cable, so
I know.
that's what happened. Yeah. So, look, see, it's playing on Stars like every day this week.
Damn. I was gonna say, Mom has Stars, right? Yeah.
No, I had it briefly.
You did.
But then I canceled it after American Gods was over. But yeah, it was just such a classic '90s movie.
Yeah.
And
still really like just a lovely movie. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
really
great.
entertaining.
I mean, it's really great. And we also, when we went to San Francisco to visit our older sister Liz, we took a little trolley ride, and one of the places they take you by is the house from this movie on Steiner Street.
Yeah, it's a beautiful neighborhood. So like Nancy Pelosi like
Lives next door or
minority
whatever.
leader, yeah, lives there. Like it's these like giant mansions. So Miranda was doing pretty fucking good in her design firm.
Yeah.
She was not hurting.
Nope.
But yeah, beautiful like area, and it is where all these like big hills are and stuff. So very, very cool. But yeah, and this movie makes me just like sad again about like the loss of Robin Williams. I like forget sometimes that has now transpired and he's no longer with us.
That he's dead. Yeah, it's crazy.
Just like wow, just super, super sad. And how like I mean, I've seen like almost every Robin Williams. Someone reminded me actually recently. I've never seen Good Morning Vietnam. Have you ever seen
Me
that?
neither.
Yeah.
Have you seen Toys?
Yes.
Oh.
So I've seen, I feel like almost every Robin Williams movie, at least a portion of it.
Have you seen 1 hour photo
I've seen
or
1
whatever?
Hour Photo. I've seen Insomnia.
I just went through like every number in my head. I was like 7 hour
Awakenings,
photo.
I think one is. I've only seen like a little bit of.
I haven't seen a lot of them.
Yeah. Oh my God, Patch Adams. That is the fucking
never seen
saddest
that.
movie ever.
I'm trying to stay away from like,
World According to
really
Garp.
sad movies.
Real sad.
But yeah, I mean, his death was one of those days that just like I think most people can remember like where they were when they heard that he died. And I remember that I came home from work and like walked into the door, and Sweetie was working from home. This is when we lived together. And the first thing she said to me when I walked in was, Robin Williams died. And I was like, what? And I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. It's like him, Michael Jackson. I was in line at Trader Joe's. And my friend Kara was like, "Did you hear the news?" And I'm like, "What?" This is like so like hillbilly.
Did you hear
the news? And I was like,
today?
"What news?" And this is really before smartphones. And she's like, "Michael Jackson died." And I was like, "What?" Randomly, Paul Walker. I remember I heard when like Paul Walker died. That's a weird one.
Weird.
Prince, Whitney Houston. Oh my
Oh my
God.
God, Whitney Houston, yes.
Yeah. So like those like couple there, like yeah, just like what? Because I mean, I think Robin Williams is just amazing talent, and he really did like morph into someone. Mork and Mindy. I mean, started like so comedian, kind of crazy based, lots of improv and mimicking kind of stuff, impressions.
Yep.
And then, as so many good comedians have done, you know, almost like a trajectory of Jim Carrey, like kind of similar thing, become these like brilliant actors and then can take on these very dramatic roles. I mean, Good Will Hunting is one of my favorite movies, and that role he plays in that is just like unbelievably beautiful and sad and heart-wrenching and just so real.
Did he win an
he
Oscar
did.
for that?
He did.
Okay, good.
So like I love Robin Williams, and I miss him every day.
Tell them a story about that guy you went on a date with. Who said that his friends think he's...
Oh, no, just like that. I think this is like kind of true. Just from the style of comedy that Robin Williams has, feels like overacting, I think, to some people.
Oh, yeah.
So they think that it's like, oh, I don't think he's that funny, or like, you know, because he's, I mean, And that's like who Robin Williams was. Like once he died, it came out like he was always on. Like that guy was like always performing. And I think for him, it was extremely exhausting as a person because he had like a severe depression and like he committed suicide. I mean, he had some dark issues. But like that's what kind of saved him was like this thing that he was like always on. And if you remember, he had just recently got diagnosed with Parkinson's. And I think that was a death sentence to him probably. I mean, I'm just like theorizing here.
Like most people have.
Like that would have been the end for him for performing and being able to act and stuff like that. And I think he couldn't like envision a life that didn't involve that.
Yeah.
And that's heartbreaking. So
It's almost actually the anniversary coming up. He died on August 11th.
Oh my
so we're very
God.
close in it. So quite poignant that we
Dead
did this.
Poet Society. Have you seen that?
Of course.
Okay, there's just too many.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Who's the guy, the kid who dies in that? The one who ended up being on House, right?
Yeah, Robert Sean
Yes.
Leonard.
Oh my God. And like tiny little baby Ethan Hawke is in it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Josh Charles is in it.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh my
Wow.
God. That's an excellent movie.
Yeah. It's pretty great.
But yeah, Robin. I don't want to leave this on a somber note. It's got really sad.
But we love you.
Robin Williams, you kick butt, and I hope you're in heaven making everyone fucking laugh. And you're amazing.
Yeah.
And I love you.
So
And I
you're the
can't wait
best.
to do Aladdin because news to everyone. That's my favorite Disney film
Of
and
all time.
I will argue till the end.
Of all time.
Yes.
Cool. I watched Moana last night. It's okay. It was good. There's like one good song that was stuck in my head. But
I heard like all the songs were amazing.
I have to listen to it again, but there's only one that I was like trying to sing afterwards. So it's like the title song, but it was pretty good. But
How
still,
was The Rock?
No, it was good, but it's still like the animation is just so different from the
Yeah.
days of Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast and stuff that like it kind of made me sad. It's still great, and I'm happy that kids today have still great Disney movies to like experience that we had. But I don't think they're on par with the ones that we had. Obviously, I think the ones today have better messages probably, but still will always love Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
A
And
great
sometimes The
deal.
Lion
A
King.
great deal. And sometimes The Lion King, although that was the one that I had diarrhea
That's
during.
when you had
So-
diarrhea. You're right.
It's another cursed film.
Maybe the movie theater makes
And
us
it's
sick
too
too.
sad. It's too sad when Mufasa dies. I just can't handle it.
I can't wait to do we haven't done a cartoon yet, so
I
that'll
know.
be
We'll
really, really
hopefully
great.
we'll do one soon.
Yeah,
so.
Disney's on like lockdown, as I think
yes,
we've said
again.
before about all their stuff. So it's really hard to
Such
get it. We
jerks.
can't stream it. If we want to buy it for like $15 a pop, right?
We can, I
Yeah.
guess, but annoying. Dumb. But yeah, so happy 1 year to us. Woo-hoo.
Yeah. So thanks again, you guys, for listening to us and
Sticking with
downloading
us.
and just being our supporters. Because really, like this is what it all means is just making all these new friends via Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and having you guys comment on our stuff and really just, I mean, having the similar reactions that we had as kids, and knowing that maybe you grew up in Seattle, but like, you know, you watched these movies too and thought the same things that we did, and that is awesome.
Yes,
So.
it's just makes my heart like
Yeah.
burst into like all these happy
We've made
pieces.
so many more new friends this last year, and like I can't even handle how great
We
that is.
have, and it's just so exciting, and we love you all, and just thank you, endless amounts of happiness, and thank you. So that's it.
All right.
We love you
Love you
guys.
guys. Bye.
Bye.